Austrian Space Magic, the plastic blaster, the AK of handguns. Today we're going to talk about an item that is so famous, so world renowned that no matter where you're at or who you are, you've heard the name before. Today we're going to be talking about the Glock. Welcome to the Average Guy Explains YouTube channel, your one-stop place for all the knowledge in the world that you did not need, taught to you by a guy who is definitely not qualified to teach you about it. Glock. What is a Glock? Who is a Glock? Where is a Glock? When is a Glock? How is a Glock? That's the question that we're going to answer today. Glock is a term that is thrown out so much in modern culture. Media, movies, music, video games. Even musicians have named themselves after the Glock and sing songs about Glocks. But what is a Glock? To the uninformed and uneducated amongst us, they don't even know what that is. So today we're going to do a little bit of a dive into what is a Glock and why it's so important in modern society. The Glock company was founded in 1963 by an Austrian man of the name of Gaston Glock, who is world famous and not for the wrong reasons. Glock started out as a polymer production company creating plastics for small pieces, and their largest production item was curtain fixtures. But fast forward to the 1980s, the Austrian government and military wanted to modernize, and it wanted to get a new modern handgun for its military. So it sent out an open invitation to inventors from all over the world to submit their designs, and Gaston Glock, a man who had never ever designed a handgun before or a firearm in general, submitted his design, and like the great Austrian man Arnold Schwarzenegger, suplexed the competition and won, beating out the likes of FN, H&K, Browning, and all other of the world's largest gun manufacturers in the world. Now, I don't think you can quantify how insane that is. A man who had never made a firearm before just submitted a design and hands down smacked the competition out of the water. No one could touch Glock's design. And Glock's design was famous for some things that were not really traditional within the world of firearms. Glocks featured a polymer lower frame of the pistol with a metal slide and very simple components. It was almost an idiot-proof design, and up until that time, no one had really made a gun that was like that before. I mean, take this into consideration. This would be like your Uncle Joe building a car in his shed and submitting it to a vehicle competition and winning, beating the likes of Ford, Chevrolet, Mercedes, BMW, Volkswagen, Audi, Ferrari. I mean, it's unheard of. Stories like this are, and yet somehow Gaston Glock, he did it. His design was adopted by the Austrian military and was formally designated the P80, which is the military designation for what we now know as the Glock 17. The Glock 17 was a semi-automatic pistol which featured a polymer lower receiver, which was extremely rare and unheard of at the time, as it is a lightweight material that can be actually easily produced, and it can't rust because plastic can't rust. Most companies at the time were making guns out of all steel, and here comes Glock with a plastic gun, and it's just a better material. Now, Glock did not feature an external safety, which was also unheard of. It only had a trigger safety. It fed from a detachable box magazine, which held 17 rounds of ammunition, and it was just an instant success over time. Now, I know, I can hear you. Glock wasn't the first gun company to use plastic parts. Well, I mean, they were the ones that popularized it. They got it into the public ethos, okay? So they get the credit for it, so suck it, gun nerds, okay? I'm sorry. Fun fact, the Glock 17 is not called the Glock 17 because it has a 17-round magazine. It's called the Glock 17 because it was Gaston Glock's 17th patent or invention. The Glock 17 entered military service with the Austrian Army in 1982, and then in 1985, it made a little trip across the ocean and entered America, land of the free, home of the truck nuts. Now, public reception in America was kind of lukewarm when Glocks first started hitting U.S. shelves. Here was this plastic gun entering a marketplace that was dominated by all metal, steel framed firearms chambered in larger calibers than what Glock was chambered in. And this was a time in America when people weren't really making things that were designed to take abuse out of plastic. But the simplicity of the design, the cheap cost to manufacture, and the proven reliability ensured that Glocks continued to find their place within American consumers. And then it started catching the eye of its soon-to-be largest and best customer, the police. The police at the time in most parts of America were still issuing revolvers to their officers, and due to the crime rise in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and into modern era, police departments were finding themselves outgunned by the criminals that they were attempting to police because of the availability of semi-automatic firearms and the low cost to acquire them. But over the next 20 years, Glock became the most popular handgun in the world. It is the third most produced firearm of all time. It is the best-selling handgun of all time, with over 20 million Glocks produced since their inception into the United States of America. They have found their hands into militaries, almost every police department, private citizens, criminals. Everyone loves Glocks, to the point that Glock has kind of become a catch-all phrase and a generic slang term for handguns in general, kind of like Bobcat and Sawzall. It's just you see a handgun, it's a Glock, even if it isn't. Glock currently has 5 generations of pistol that they offer, which mainly has been unchanged since the inception of the original P80 Glock 17 to the modern Generation 5 Glocks that they're producing and shipping to this day. They have Glocks in almost every caliber available to you, and Glocks of all sizes. I mean, we're talking, you got big Glocks, small Glocks, baby Glocks, angsty teenager Glocks. Basically, if you have a hand, Glock made a gun for you. Fun fact, the Glock 19 is the best-selling handgun of all time, and it's just a slightly more compact version of the Glock 17, but due to Glock's magazine design, it's interchangeable with Glock 17 mag, so you can use a smaller magazine in your Glock 19, or if you need that extra firepower in the old blicky, you can put a Glock 17 magazine in a Glock 19. And the Glock 19 does not hold 19 rounds. Okay, again, it's just a number. The Glock revolutionized firearms, and to this day, almost every single firearms manufacturer offers their version of what is essentially a Glock. It's polymer frame lower, metal slide, very few components, no external safety. Companies have spent the last decade to almost 2 decades chasing that Glock firestorm that swept the gun market, and unfortunately, while there has been some very successful designs, such as the H&K VP series, the Smith & Wesson M&P series, the CZ-P10, and other guns in the same ethos of firearms, no one has ever been able to capture the popularity that Glock has. The Glock has been called the Lego of handguns, as there are more aftermarket companies producing parts for Glocks than any other single handgun company. It's to the point to where you can basically build an entire Glock pistol without a single part that was actually manufactured by Glock themselves. I mean, this is unheard of in the realm of firearms. But Glock's popularity maintains to this day as the competition continues to try to innovate and design, and Glock just basically keeps making the same gun that they've been making for going on 40 plus years now, and people keep buying them. It's a proven design, it's reliable, and I mean, what can I say? It's a Glock. But I feel like this wraps up a general overview of Glocks, and maybe you learned something, maybe you didn't. Maybe nobody's even watching this video right now, but if you did learn just maybe something interesting about Glocks, or you are really into this very, very expensive Wrangler shirt that I'm wearing, give me a like, give me a comment some ideas for future videos. I'll really willing to research pretty much anything and make a video on just about anything. So thank you for your time, and I'll catch you on the next one.